Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the music there, and I think it injected some energy into everybody, hopefully at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. My name is Anna Kelly. I'm the Director of Access and Lifelong Learning in UCD, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to this family session. And we appreciate you attending this family session. It is very important for us. You're gifting your time, and we appreciate it very, very much. You're obviously lending your support to your family member who is beginning their incredibly exciting journey in UCD. So thank you for your attendance here this afternoon. Today is a very important day in our world. It marks the beginning of our Welcome programme. And this morning into UCD, we welcomed 1,531 Access students. They're new Access students, our biggest cohort of students yet. We welcome them into UCD, which is University for All. Now, some of you might have heard that term, but UCD has pioneered the concept of a University for All. And a University for All has a very simple message, but a very important message at its heart. We want all students to feel welcome, to feel as though they belong, to feel as though they have a right to be in UCD. So our Access students, as you know well, have worked really hard during the past year in particular, with all the challenges and disruptions that there were to their lives, to everybody's lives. They have earned their place in UCD, and this morning they took their seat. Virtually, tomorrow morning we'll see them in person. In UCD, we strongly believe that higher education is for everybody. But unfortunately, as we all know, there are people in our communities who do not have the opportunity to participate in higher education. We work hard in UCD to ensure that people have the opportunity to progress to higher education. We are making very significant progress. Some of you may know that there are over 17,000 students, undergraduate students in UCD. A third, yes, that's a third, you heard me correctly, a third of those students have Access backgrounds similar to your family members. So the new Access students, as you appreciate, I'm sure, really well, and know only too well, they're at a critical juncture in their lives, which can generate a range of feelings stretching from excitement and anticipation and hope on the one hand, but right across the spectrum to feelings of fear, perhaps worry and anxiety. And we understand that. And so that's why we have put together the Welcome programme, because we hope the Welcome programme will demystify life in UCD. It will dispel any myths and hopefully allay fears. But we also hope the Welcome programme will inspire the new students, the new Access students. And particularly this morning, they had the opportunity to hear a panel of seasoned Access students in conversation with Samantha Library, who is the RTE journalist, as many of you will know. And those students who are still studying here, some at undergraduate level, some at postgraduate and even at doctorate level, and some who have graduated and are now successfully in the workplace. So their stories and their tips and tricks and advice we think will be enormously helpful to our new Access students. And it's important that our new Access students know that they're not alone, they're not the first. It's a well-worn path, or well-worn paths, I should say, to UCD, and others have gone before them, and they have imparted the wisdom of their experience, and the new Access students got an opportunity to hear that this morning. So over the next days and weeks, we in Access and Lifelong Learning will support and guide the new students as they embark on their studies. You as family members have a very important role, I'm sure, as you would well appreciate, at this time of change in their lives. You are what we call a community of support. The new students, as I said, will experience a range of emotions over the next while, and your support and your encouragement is critical to their successful transition to a UCD student. We have long experience of working with Access students in UCD, and we know that students benefit enormously by having somebody in their corner, by having a family member or a friend, a listening ear, a trusted person, a person who in times of challenge, in times of difficulty, times of worry, will remind them that the help, advice and support they need is always available at Access and Lifelong Learning. And you've heard that here tonight. So if you can be a signpost, a human signpost, so to speak, and direct them back towards us, we will always guide and advise and support. My colleague, Dr. Barbara Fleming, who's the Deputy Director of Access and Lifelong Learning, leads the student support team here in UCD. And together with a team of experts, and you're going to hear from some of those experts tonight, they will guide, advise and support and signpost all our Access students whenever they are in need of our help, our assistance. We have an open door policy, and Barbara is only too delighted to share her wisdom. And it's my honor and pleasure to hand over to Barbara now, who will begin tonight's family session. Barbara.
Hi there. Unfortunately, Barbara was on the call, but she seems to have dropped off momentarily. I think maybe some internet issues. I'm just going to begin, and whenever she joins us, she can step in then. So I'm just going to share the presentation. Now, so you're all very welcome to our first session this evening, which is College Knowledge. As I said, Dr. Barbara Fleming should be along with us shortly, hopefully, along with myself, Carissa Houston. I'm one of the occupational therapists on the disability team. And Dr. Lisa Padden will also be joining on the presentation, who's the Programme Manager for University for All. So the aim of this presentation is to welcome you all from Access and Lifelong Learning, and to really give you an overview of the Access and Lifelong Learning team and the supports that we offer, to share some important practical information, like Anna said, so that you can then be equipped to signpost your family members and friends and support them through their journey. And then at the end, we'll also have time for any questions. But there is a Q&A function down the bottom. So if anyone has questions as we go along, feel free to pop them in there, and we'll either respond in the Q&A, or we can respond to them at the end either. So I suppose why are you all here? So you've all been invited here this evening because your son, daughter, father, mother, friend, partner, whoever it is, has been accepted to UCD through one of our 7 pathways. And we're here to outline how UCD works and our role within that. So as you heard Anna mention earlier, over 1/3 of our students in UCD come from underrepresented groups. And it's our job in the Access and Lifelong Learning Centre to really support all of those students through their university journey, so that they can reach the goals that they have set for themselves and experience success. So transition is a really important, I suppose, topic for new students when they enter a new institution, maybe as a first-year student, or maybe just starting a new course in a different institution. And it's the process that students go through, which can last up to a year, which can, as I said, involve maybe starting as a first year, or maybe transferring to a new college, and maybe doing a second or a subsequent degree. And it's really important because successful transition and having a successful, I suppose, transition period results in students integrating into the institution and ultimately being able to achieve their goals and staying on and completing their degree. So it's a really important time. And I suppose one of the key messages that we want to impart to you is that now that your students, your family members, your friends are in UCD, they have their seat, and no one is going to take that seat away from them. So now that they have it, it's theirs to keep. And it's our job to really support all of the students who now have their seats to stay in those seats. So really the hard work is done. We only allocate each place once, so no one's going to take that place away from you. There's no, there's all the competition has maybe been, up until now to get CO points and different things like that to get in. But now the students are here and we really want them to stay here. So it's our job to support them. And as family members, you can remind them that they earned that seat. And that can be a really important reminder for people in that transition period. They may be feeling, like an imposter, maybe I don't belong here, but they do. And it's really important to remind them of that. So this is our team, all these smiling faces. So we have a large team here in Access and Lifelong Learning, and our job is to make sure that UCD is as diverse as our society, as Anna mentioned, to develop pathways to UCD, and we currently have 7 of those, and to provide a range of specialised supports. So I'm going to explain to you how we support students. So we have lots of different supports that we offer. So I suppose the first one to mention is our Welcome programme, which you're familiar with because that's why you're all here. So that has been taking place online today, and tomorrow students have been invited to register if they wanted to come to day 2, which is on campus. We offer guidance and advice on a range of topics and concerns. We offer specific supports to students with disabilities. We offer workshops which focus on academic skills and well-being. We have financial supports, and we also have mentoring programs. So I'm going to take you through a bit more detail on some of these. I won't be going through disability support and financial support because there's going to be later presentations this evening that will cover those in depth. So our Welcome programme, as I said, it's happening right now, and it's something that that we do in order to really give students a head start before their course starts properly. They get to get their head around maybe what university life is going to entail, and even get to see the campus, if they're going to come tomorrow. They can hopefully meet some other students and start to build a network of friends, which is really important in that transition time. They get to meet various staff members of UCD, particularly ourselves. They start to develop some independent learning skills, and they can set goals for university success. So our academic skills and wellbeing workshops are workshops that we run throughout the term time, and they're run once a week, and any UCD student can come to them. And I suppose the reason that we run them is because the skills that someone needs to succeed at university might be very different to the skills that they might have used in school or in the workplace. So it's really important that we equip people with those skills so that they can be successful in their university experience. So these are just some of the examples of topics that we do cover in the workshop. So it might be things like writing skills, procrastination, presentations and group work, stress management, and self-care. So advice and guidance is a really big part of our role. So every student who comes through one of our access pathways, like your family member or friend or partner, will be offered the chance to book a one-to-one meeting with one of our team members at the start of the year. And we're also available throughout the academic year if people want to book an appointment to chat something through with us. Just to note that meetings will mostly be happening virtually for the first trimester this year. And something that we might do quite often in those meetings is, after we've, I suppose, given the person time to chat through what's concerning them, is possibly signpost them in the direction of some other supports within UCD that might be helpful to them. And students are welcome to discuss anything that's affecting their participation in university with us. So it might be something like finances, it could be something to do with personal issues, or it could be specifically to do with academics. So I mentioned that mentoring is another part of our work, and we have some specific mentoring programs here in Access and Lifelong Learning. But just to mention as well that every incoming student, is linked up with a peer mentor also. So we have over 600 or nearly 600 peer mentors in UCD, and most of them would be stage 2 students, meaning that they're now in the second year or possibly subsequent years of their course. And their job is really to help new students to transition and give them guidance and advice and things like that. And then we also have these 3 programs that you can see listed here as part of our work. And the one I'd like to particularly mention is the Access Leader program. So Access Leaders are students, again, stage 2 or possibly further along in their studies, who came through one of our access pathways. And now they really want to support new students who are coming through one of those pathways in their transition. So if your family member or friend is coming along tomorrow, if they've registered for our on-campus day, they'll get to meet the Access Leaders tomorrow. They're going to be helping us to run the day tomorrow. So when someone first starts in any university, one of the kind of key tasks at the beginning is really finding their way, not just physically around, but figuring out, what are all the different services and functions that are on offer in the university. And I suppose really figuring out, who do I ask if I have a particular question? So you can see some of the places listed here that students might, end up going to if they have a particular question or concern. And I suppose that the message really is that there is always someone there to advise and to answer that question. It's just sometimes about finding the right person or the right place to ask. And we do have information in the welcome handbook that every student would have received from us. And there's a section in it that outlines all of these different services and functions and the description of what they all do. So that might be a good starting point if anyone is feeling a bit lost in that regard. So online registration, so you might know that all students have to register at the start of the academic year. And I suppose every student will receive these instructions on how to do this and the dates and everything in their UCD email. So it's just really important that students keep an eye on that around this time of year and follow the instructions in those emails. And there's also a lot of information on the UCD website at ucd.ie/students/registration. And there's actually some good video sort of guides if anyone's feeling a bit stuck with how to do that. There's a lot of information there that's quite helpful. So again, another thing that can be a little bit maybe overwhelming when someone first comes to UCD is getting their head around the language and the words and terminology that's used. So here's some maybe examples of some of the common words and terminology that your family member or friends might come across and might be good for you to know about too. So program, that's the word in UCD that's used to describe the degree that you're studying. So someone's program might be a Bachelor of Science, for example. Then their major is a subject area that their degree is in. So someone who's doing a program, a Bachelor of Science, their major might be in zoology. Then within that program and major, there'll be modules. So those are self-contained units of learning, teaching, and assessment. So students will do a number of modules each semester, and those will all accumulate. And then there's two types of modules. So there's core modules that are essential. You have to do those. There's no choice as part of your program, and you're usually pre-registered to those. And then there's elective ones, which you can choose from any subject area across UCD. So again, we have information on these kind of terms and words that people might come across and be unsure about in the Welcome Handbook. But also if you go to the UCD website and just search Jargon Buster, it'll actually bring up a really helpful page there as well that goes through a lot of the different terminology and words. If you or your family member or friend are feeling a bit confused, that can be a really good kind of first stop. So I'm going to hand you over to Barbara if she's there. I think I saw her pop up. Or perhaps she's gone again. I think she might have disappeared again. That's all right. I can. Oh no, there she is. Are you there, Barbara? I can see her, but I can't hear her. I might keep going then, unless. Yeah, I think I might keep going, Barbara. If you can hear me, feel free to interrupt at any stage, and you can jump in. Feel free.
Carissa, I think her internet is patchy, so perhaps keep going, and she'll try and join us when she can.
No problem. Thanks, Anna. So to take you through a little bit more terminology and explain how things work. So this is how credits accumulate. So as I mentioned, each student will do a number of modules each trimester, and each module is worth 5 credits. And then you might have heard me mention the word stage earlier too. So a stage is a full-time year. So if someone is stage 1, that's their first year of their course. So the credits involved in a stage are 60 credits, or that equals 12 modules. And then a degree, again, is an accumulation of credits. So it can be, some degrees are 3 years, some are 4, some are more. So it'll be a multiple of 60 credits. So if someone was doing a 3-year degree, they would eventually accumulate 180 credits in order to graduate.
Carissa, I'm back.
Oh, Barbara's back. Hello.
I am back with the mysteries of college knowledge, and apologies, demonstrating what happens when you're relying virtually. So, Carissa, thank you very much for sharing how all the pieces work. Do you want me to take over?
Yes, absolutely. I'm just having trouble actually moving the slide along now. So you've transferred your technology woes onto me, I think. So let me just see if I might need to stop sharing and go back in again. 1 second.
We had a session earlier today, Chris, and the theme was you cannot break the internet, but I think we're at
we may have succeeded at this.
I think we might have, yeah.
Now let's see. No, that's still not letting me. Sorry about this. I might try opening it in a different way.
I don't know if Chris explained earlier, she's an occupational therapist, so they have many, many ways of making things work. No pressure.
No pressure. We're good at problem solving, supposedly, so let's see. I think that this may work. Let's see.
I think the main theme of what you're sharing, Chris, is the different currency that we use here in UCD now compared to where we've used it before. So essentially, when you're talking to your family members or friends, you're going to hear them talking about modules and credits. So that's what we're talking about here.
Sorry, I'm just almost there. Now, I think we're good to go.
Thank you, Chris. So in addition to people talking about modules and accumulating credit, and it is much more manageable now than it ever has been before, because you're building up credit throughout your time here in UCD. You'll also hear your family members or friends talking about assessments and assignments. And one of the nice ways that they're organised now is it's not one big emergency at the end. The assignments take place throughout their students' time. So they will be doing a lot of essays that they're always typed, they're always cited. In other words, you can't just make it up, you have to draw on the experts. There are a lot of interim MCQs and quizzes, a lot of participation, presentations. The scientists among them will be doing lots of lab reports and so on. And of course, there will be exams. How they'll be resolved at the end, we don't know, but the tentative plan at the moment is that they'll be on in the RDS. So typically UCD hold exams twice a year. So pre-COVID and post-COVID, they will emphatically be on at the same time anyway. They're always mid-December. Those dates are set in stone. They're immovable, and they're also available in early May. And there are no repeats in UCD. So students are encouraged to, you get to do the module and you do it once, but you don't have to come back to do August repeats. You may have to do something else, but you certainly won't have a repeat exam. And where Chris was mentioning that you need 60 credits a year, you can move from one stage to the other with a minimum of 50 credits passed. So there's 10 modules that you need to pass, that you can carry if you had to, but that very rarely happens. And then students have to pass all credits to complete a stage fully. A stage is a year. And then the other good thing to know is how students will get their results. And we would have talked about confidentiality and I suppose our unique relationship with students. And the uniqueness here is that only the student gets the result. They're never posted home, never given over the phone, carrier pigeon, no other method, just on the student account. As students must check their timetable, that's their responsibility. And the other thing that students need to remember is in the unlikely event of an illness or a bereavement, they really need to be proactive. Make sure you get onto the programme office, make sure they tell the programme office what's happening and they can complete an extenuating circumstance or something else like it. And then the programme office will help assess that. You've frozen again, Chrissa.
I have, yeah. I'm not sure. Our internet has not been kind to us.
No, it's the irony is that this is the UCD Wi-Fi. We're not representing it very well. I think we pause it there, Chrissa, and possibly hand the baton over to our colleagues who have much more reliable email. Have you, So is it over,
we have,
over to you?
I can share the slides, Barbara.
we would just have 5 minutes for questions. So there was one question there that maybe Barbara or Teresa might want to come in on.
Yeah.
Just what happens during orientation week, and when will I hear about it? It's a student or something else.
So this is for their program, is it?
Yeah, for the course orientation.
Okay. So each student is registered to a particular program, and their program office will be in contact with them and will give them a unique overview of what's involved in the program that they're in. They'll meet peer mentors who are students who are in their program, and they'll get a really local tour of what is specific to that program. What those of you, the 1,500 of you that are with us now, would have been alerted to this morning is you're getting a preview. So you're getting a kind of a warm up, and then the program overview is going to be unique to your program, if that answers it, Roisin.
Yeah, I think that's good. We haven't had any more questions, so I think, yeah, if we just hand over now to Fiona and Catherine to start the financial supports.
Thanks a million, Roisin. I'm just going to share my screen, and hopefully my Wi-Fi in Bray is going to be kinder to me than the Wi-Fi on campus. So as the guy said, myself and Fiona are going to talk to you about fees and finance supports. So I'm Catherine Tormey. I'm the Mature Student Advisor in UCD, and I'm going to be joined by Fiona Quinn, who's a disability support specialist, but she's also an expert in all things scholarship when it comes to UCD. So we're delighted to have you here this evening. And as the guy said, if you have any questions as we're going through our slides, just feel free to put them in the chat, and colleagues will answer them as they come up, or we can answer them at the end. So it came up earlier on with regard to fee status, and you might be aware there are various types of fee statuses that students can be assigned when they come into UCD. So there's the free fees for students who qualify for the Free Fees Initiative, and then there's EU fees for students who've been tax resident in the EU for 3 of the past 5 years before starting their programme. And then there's non-EU fees, and they're the status for students who do not meet the residency criteria for EU fees. So what does free fees mean? Because we know there's nothing free in this world, and the Free Fees Initiative is no different. The Free Fees Initiative covers the EU programme fee, less the student contribution, and in addition, the student must pay the student levy. So the easiest way to explain this to you is by way of an example. So the social science programme fee, for example, is 5,880, and that's the kind of bill that you would get. The student contribution is €3,000, and the student must pay that, or else they need to apply to Susie if they're eligible to pay it on their behalf. And then the Free Fees Initiative would pay what's left over. So in this example, it will pay €2,880. And then the student must pay the student levy, and that's €254. So I'll just run through it again with a different programme that has a different programme fee, so that you have a bit of clarity. So the nursing programme fee is significantly more. That's €7,360. But the student contribution remains €3,000. The student contribution is always €3,000. And that needs to be paid again by the student, or they can apply to Susie to pay it on their behalf if they meet the Susie criteria. And in this instance, then the Free Fees Initiative would cover €4,360. And again, the student must pay the student levy. So the student who is EU fee eligible will be paying €7,360. The student who is free fees eligible will be paying the €3,254. And a student who is Susie eligible for the full contribution and free fees eligible will have to pay the €254. So every student at a minimum must pay that student levy of €254. So it may be a case that you've had brothers or sisters or children who've come into college, and the Free Fees Initiative was just applied to their account, and you're wondering, why do I have to hear about this? Most Leaving Cert students, so that's most of the students who came in through the HEAR route and the DARE route, will be assessed in advance of coming into college. And if they're deemed eligible, then the Free Fees Initiative is automatically applied to their account. So in that instance, they don't need to take any action. They just need to make sure that it has been applied to their account. But all students with a gap between their Leaving Cert and entry into college, or with a place of birth outside the EU, need to apply for the Free Fees assessment, so that They can be assessed for free fees. They need to provide the documents to prove eligibility. And they can do that through the UCD registry website. And it's an online application, and they have an online facility for you to upload your documents to. And then you can be assessed for free fees. And if you're deemed eligible, they can be applied to your account. So when I'm talking about uploading documents to prove eligibility, the eligibility criteria fall under 3 categories. Your nationality, so if you're an EU national, or if you have a specific category of permission to remain, if you're resident in the EU for 3 of the past 5 years, and there's also a criteria around prior educational attainment. And I'm just going to speak about that for a minute, because applicants must hold, for the Free Fees Initiative, must hold no qualification at level 7 or above. So if a student holds a level 7 qualification, they may be eligible for funding for the add-on years in the related degree programme only. And so that would be relevant for people who are coming in, having done a level 7, are now coming into an advanced stage of a level 8, just to upgrade their level 7 to a level 8. It would also be relevant for those of you who might have done an open learning certificate. So you've already done your open learning certificate, you have a level 7 through that certificate, and now you're progressing on a recognised progression pathway into a related degree programme. So in that case, your level 7 will not impact your ability, your eligibility for free fees. But for an example, a student who took a level 7, a couple of years ago, maybe in Carlow or in Tala or in Blanchardstown, and now they're coming in, starting at stage 1 in a level 8 program in UCD, their free fees eligibility will be impacted by the number of years, reduced by the number of years that they spent at that level 7. However, a student who holds a level 7 who is also Susie eligible may have their full programme fee up to the maximum of 6,270 paid by Susie. So if you are a student who is Susie eligible and you hold a level 7, and I'm not talking about the open learning certificate in this instance, then do come and speak to me, and we can talk about how much that Susie might be paying off your fee account. So any years spent at higher education which did not result in an award within the past 5 years will be taken off the student's free fee entitlement. So for example, if you took a level 6 certificate 2 years ago and you graduated, you completed it, and you got the certificate in your hand, that's no problem. That will not impact your free fees initiative eligibility, because you're progressing in your education. However, if you started at level 6 and you didn't complete it and you don't have the certificate, then the amount of time that you spent at that level 6 would be taken off your free fees entitlement. If you hold a level 7, I've already covered that. And if you already hold a level 8 degree, then you will not be entitled to the free fees initiative. So you'll be looking at EU fees in this instance. So that brings nicely on to EU fees. In order to qualify for EU fees, you must be resident in the EU for 3 of the past 5 years. So we're talking about tax residency or residency as an asylum seeker. Or you must have completed a minimum of 5 years primary or secondary education in the EU. So if you did your primary and your secondary education here, but for the past 5 years, you've been off in Australia or somewhere outside the EU, you can still qualify for EU fees. And your nationality isn't relevant. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. What matters is your residency in the EU. And the important thing to note about your fee status is that once your fee status is set, it remains the same for the duration of your programme of study. And the only exception to this, and in my experience, it happens very, very rarely, is a student who meets all the criteria for the Free Fees Initiative when they're starting their programme, except nationality. And through the course of their programme, they acquire EU nationality. In that case, you can change your fee status. But it's a very rare occasion. I've very rarely seen it in my years in the Access and Lifelong Learning Centre. So by rule of thumb, whatever fee status you are assigned when you enter UCD, you will be retaining that for the duration of your programme. And that's really important if your fee status is, for example, non-EU fees, and you haven't secured funding for those fees. then it would be very wise to come and speak to your support worker in the Access and Lifelong Learning Centre. That's Michelle, if you're a HEAR student, and myself as a mature student. Or if you have been assigned EU fees and you will become eligible for free fees next year, well, then it's worth having a conversation. Over the course of a 4-year degree, that is a significant amount of savings that you would make if you held off for the year. There are other opportunities to proceed with your education through the Open Learning Programme and other programmes. So it's worth having a conversation with your support worker and all if you have been allocated EU fees and believe you will be eligible for free fees in the following year. So the Susie Grant, I'm sure many of you, or if not all of you, are already aware of the Susie Grant. It's the single grants authority, and when it comes to grants, it's the only show in town. So you apply on the Susie website, susie.ie, and students may be awarded a maintenance grant and or partial or full funding of a student contribution. So basically, if your household income is around 49,240, I think, or below, they will pay all of the student contribution. And if it's between 49 and 54, they'll pay half. So if your household income is over €54,000, then you will have to pay the student contribution yourself. They also offer a maintenance grant. The maintenance grant is small. It's very important that you budget realistically for college. So if your student is coming into college and the Susie Maintenance Grant is their primary income source, and they're not going to have other sources of income from other areas, you really need to consider that and make sure you're looking out for scholarships that you can apply for, and make sure that you attend the finance clinics early on so that you can get support around your budgeting, because you will need that support. So if you're awarded fee funding from Susie, then Susie will pay that directly to UCD. So the HEA Free Fees Initiative is directly applied to your UCD account, and the same with Susie fee supports. That's directly applied. But it's really important that the students consult their UCD fee account until that they see that those fees are paid. Because even though Susie may have approved you or your student for fees, if there's some sort of administrative hiccup or any sort of issue that money isn't paid onto their fee account, well, then it can have implications for the student. And it's really important to get these kind of little hiccups sorted in September, October, and not be dealing with them around the exam period, or, God forbid, come to the end and you can't see your exam results because you have a fee hold because Susie never paid in and you weren't aware of it because you weren't checking your fee account. So it's really, really important to continue checking your fee account, or that your student continues to check their fee account until they can see it's a zero amount owing. And if your student is getting maintenance, they'll be paid in 9 monthly installments, and they can check out the dates that those installments will be paid on the Susie website. So here is the fee account. It's very tiny, and I'm sure you can't see very much in it, but I just wanted to show you and give you a picture of a UCD fee account. You can see there the charges on one side, and you can see the online payment and the third-party grant and everything being paid off on the other. And every student has access to their own UCD fee account via their student account, SIS Web. They can access it, they can see what's being paid in, they can see what's owing, and it's really essential that they keep on top of it until that balance is zero, because it can have implications for them. So another thing with regard to Susie that I wanted to highlight to mature students, because it is an issue that can trip up mature students, is that Susie have different classes, or the classification for mature students. They have mature dependent students classification and a mature independent student classification. So students who are living with their parents or legal guardians between April and October of the year prior to entry are classified as dependent students regardless of their age, and they will be assessed on their parents' income and their own income combined. So this can be very surprising to mature students naturally, when they come into college, and maybe they hadn't factored that in, and it can impact their eligibility for a student grant. So students who are 23 and older and living independently of their parents before October of the year prior to entry will be assessed on their own household income only. So just to flag with you as well, I mean, this isn't a classification that we're in agreement with, and UCD classifies all mature students as independent mature students for the purposes of the Student Assistance Fund, for the purposes of the Coram na Féine scholarships and other scholarships. So, but unfortunately, Susie do have this classification at present, so it's very important to be aware of it. So the Back to Education allowance is a social welfare payment, and some of you may be eligible to apply for it. And if you are, you should have applied by now. It's for those who are over 21 and receive a qualifying social welfare payment for 9 months in advance of coming in, although the 9-month rule is waived for those on PUP. So as I said, you should have applied in advance of starting college. I suppose the things to highlight with regard to the Back to Education is that if you're in receipt of Back to Education, you can qualify for the Susie fee grant, but not the Susie maintenance grant. And a lot of people say to me, oh, I do qualify for Back to Education, but when I was applying to Susie, I ticked fee and maintenance grant, and now I'm going to be overpaid, or it's going to cause me an administrative nightmare. But don't worry about that. Susie and Back to Education are in communication with each other, and they can all see what's going on. So if you are eligible for Back to Education, even if you apply to Susie for a fee and a maintenance grant, they will only pay the fee grant. So you're not going to be overpaid by them. They're in communication with each other. Another thing to highlight is, as I say, a qualifying social welfare payment that you could transfer from a qualifying social welfare payment, but you're not obliged to transfer from certain payments. So I've mentioned here job seekers, disability, one-parent family, and there's a swathe of payments which qualify as a qualifying social welfare payment for the Back to Education allowance, and they're available on the NCREO website. But if you're on a disability payment or a one-parent family payment, you're not obliged to transfer to Back to Education. You can transfer to Back to Education if it suits you to do so, but you're not obliged to. And it can have implications with regard to rent allowance. So it is something that you need to consider whether or not you want to transfer from these payments to a Back to Education payment. And with regard to job seekers payment, or any payment where there is a criteria where you have to be actively seeking work. Obviously, as a full-time student in a university, you won't be actively seeking a full-time job because you can't do full-time work in full-time college. So people who are on a job seekers payment, they do need to transfer to Back to Education. But it's important to note that in the summer period, when you're not at college, you will be transferred back to your original payment. You won't remain on Back to Education for the summer period. So for that period, it is important to remain eligible for your qualifying payment, because if you're no longer eligible for your qualifying payment, you won't be able to transfer back onto Back to Education in stage 2 or stage 3 as you go through the system. So they're the kind of things to be aware of with Back to Education. So that's it for me. I'm going to pass over to my colleague Fiona Quinn, who's going to go talk to you about the different financial supports and scholarships. And I will come back at the end if anybody has any questions. Feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. So over to you, Fiona.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and hello to everybody. My name is Fiona Quinn, as Catherine said, and I am the Disability Support Specialist. Primarily, I support students with disabilities, but through my time in UCD, I've become quite knowledgeable on all the financial supports available within UCD students, and also in my past role, I was very involved in the Coram na Féine scholarship, so that's why you have me this evening. So I'd love to start off by just giving you a quick overview of some of the financial supports that are available just generally in UCD, regardless of the pathway that you've come in. And we'll go into more depth on these in a few minutes, but there are some funds available, including the Student Support Fund and the Student Welfare Fund for unforeseen circumstances, and I'll describe what that means in a few minutes. There is also a laptop loan scheme, which we'll be going into in depth, and there are different scholarship opportunities, including the Coram na Féine scholarship. For students who've entered through the HEAR pathway then, there might be some specific supports which are available to these students. So there's the Student Supports Fund that's specific for students who've entered through HEAR. Again, we strongly encourage the students who've entered through the HEAR pathway to apply to the laptop loan scheme and to the Coram na Féine scholarships, which I'll be describing in depth in a few minutes. There are also some book tokens available to students who've who've entered through the HERE pathway, you'll have already been contacted by your support officer, who's Michelle Tracy. And through contact with Michelle and meeting with Michelle, you'll be able to avail of these book tokens. And then Michelle and Catherine in particular offer a lot of different finance clinics within our office, which are really great opportunities for you to sit down, look at your budget, look at the financial plan for the year, and with that forward thinking, put yourself in the best position to feel supported during your time in UCD. So I've mentioned a few different funds here, and on the screen you'll see a grid of all these different funds and when you can apply and what kind of documentation you need to provide and where do you apply. So a big one is the Student Support Fund, which also goes hand in hand with the Student Support Fund for HERE students. This opens quite shortly. It opens in October and it's only for EU students. If it's the General Student Support Fund, it's a means tested support. So your household income would be looked at, and it's normally about €49,840 would be kind of the cap on a whole household income. And then for HERE students, of course, you've already undergone means testing during your HERE eligibility. For this fund, it varies. It's around 500 to 700 a once-off payment each year, and students can apply through SysWeb. But particularly for the HERE Support Fund, Michelle Tracy will be in contact to support you through this application and give you more detail on that. And there are no receipts required for this. However, documentation, if it's General Student Support Fund on the household income, is required. Student Welfare Fund is not really something to include in your budget, but instead to have there in your back pocket for, I suppose, a bit of a rainy day. It's not means tested, but it is only for unforeseen circumstances. It's open all year for that reason. So if something happened, for instance, if a medical expense was incurred that wasn't expected and wasn't possible to be covered by you as a student, you should contact your student advisor to discuss this. And then because it's kind of to support a cost, I suppose, that was unforeseen, receipts may be required. Students who are parenting can also apply to a fund. This is open to full-time students and part-time students all year round. It's the same value as the Student Assistance Fund, 500 or 750. But for part-time students, they'll be offered a rate on a pro rata basis, so calculated based on how the size of your study load, I suppose. And this is either through SysWeb or it's through SysWeb and Access on Lifelong Learning that you apply. And then part-time students, again, but not necessarily students who are parenting, have a fund that they can apply to. And again, it's calculated on a pro rata basis as the same level as the Student Support Fund. And you apply directly to Access and Lifelong Learning for this. So how do you apply for the Student Assistant Fund? Well, HERE students must attend their HERE virtual finance clinics, and we'll be getting lots of communications on this. I think in our college knowledge section, we might have missed out on one of the most important points actually, so I'll flag it in here, which is to always be checking your email. That is how UCD contact you, or contact students, excuse me. So as a family or a friend member, family or friend of one of our students, it's so important that if they are looking for information, to nudge them towards their email as their first port of call. And it's likely they've received communications on something like this. So during those finance clinics, the student will be assisted to make the application. So I know applications can seem really daunting and nobody enjoys it, I would say, but through the support, it'll become a much easier process. For other low-income students, who are not HERE eligible, they can still apply for the Student Support Fund or the Student Assistance Fund, and this is done through SysWeb, and they will need to provide some income declaration. Just to note that is a means-tested application, so a household income of below €49,870 is the criteria for that eligibility. So the laptop loan scheme, this is one to definitely put in the diaries for all students at the moment, to have a look. So what we have an initiative, it's come out of the pandemic, I would say. So it's really here for now. So it's one to jump on, where we have laptops that are available to loan. I know that doesn't sound great when I say it, so I'll give a little bit more detail. This laptop is for loan for the entire duration of the student's degree, so 3 or 4 years. It's not a laptop that they need to check in and check out every day. This is a laptop they can bring to college, keep at home, and work away on for the entirety of their degree. It is a means tested application for one of these laptops. So again, €49,840 is the threshold, and applications are happening right now. So it's time to get on it and check it out on our website. And I would strongly encourage any students who are looking to have a laptop for college, which is absolutely a big thing that it will benefit you in college. If you're looking to get a laptop and your household income is below that threshold, to consider applying for this loan scheme. And now something that I'm incredibly passionate about, and that is the Curram na Féine scholarships. So this is one of the largest access scholarships in the country. And it means, I know it sounds very funny, Curram na Féine, but it means justice and equality, or you could say it means levelling the playing fields. It's a fantastic scholarship opportunity that has over up to 100 scholarships available every year for first year undergraduate students. It has a minimum value of €1,500 per year of study. So if you're studying 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, if it's medicine, doesn't matter what program, every year of study will have at least €1,500, a value given, paid, split twice, split over the year on 2 occasions. And really, all students who are entering through an access and lifelong learning pathway should, if they meet the means tested criteria for this scholarship, should consider applying. So I might take on. So there are some other scholarships available as well. Some of these fall under the Curram na Féine scholarship, but just to flag them as they might be more relevant to some students. So there are a lot of specific scholarships within Curram na Féine for students who are studying law and business and law, and then the Sutherland Opportunity Scholarships. There's also the Bagata Scholarship for students who have attended Muckross Park before, and that doesn't need to be just left Muckross. That could be attended in the past if you're a mature student, for instance. There's also, again, a specific scholarship for students who have attended Templeogue College or St. Matthias. And there's the business class gift, which is specifically for students who are studying business. So there's also a separate scholarship, which is available in several universities and institutions across Ireland, but we're delighted to be a part of it, and that's the Path 1916 Bursary. This bursary is it is a larger value, but there are fewer scholarships available. So it also is has different eligibility requirements to the Curram na Féine. So it has a lower household income. To give a guide, it would be kind of around the Susie special rate, that you'd be really kind of considering Path 1916 Bursary. The closing date for that bursary is the 15th of October. So if you're considering applying for the Curram na Féine, which is that very large scholarship that I was describing, applications are made through SysWeb. And it's important that when you're applying that you upload your supporting documentation. If the documentation isn't uploaded, we'll get in touch and let you know that it hasn't been uploaded, but it's an essential part of your application. So it's worth, as a family or friend, prompting your student to start considering to look at the documentation and gather that. as that's often sometimes the thing that is done maybe last minute, but it's a really important piece of the application. So, but some of these documentation are really easily accessed by you as a family member or by the student. So that might be the student's HERE eligibility letter or email if they're a HERE eligible student. It might be their Susie letter if they've been assessed by Susie. And if not, it can be any of the documentation on screen that shows the household income. So for instance, statement of liabilities, notice of assessment, or and noting payments from the Department of Social Protection. So a date for the diary, it's coming up quite soon now in the next few weeks, is that the Coram na Féine will close on 8th of October. And again, there are lots of support available for students who are applying for Coram na Féine. So there will be virtual scholarship application workshops. There'll be drop-ins to ask questions. And again, I know it can be a little bit daunting completing applications, but the support is there for the students. So encourage them to come along. And then my absolutely favourite part of this whole process is that in November, all of our successful scholars are invited to an award ceremony. And you can see on the screen a picture of some of our scholars in 2019 being presented with their scholarship by the registrar, who's the deputy president. I second this day only to the graduation for students. Being a Coram na Féine scholar is an incredible honour. So all students should, who are eligible to apply for this should consider it. And you can see those beaming faces on the screen, and maybe they might be one. So if you need any further information on finances, I would recommend you check out our website, ucd.ie/all, as we keep it very much up to date with all the information that you might need. But also you can email us at all@ucd.ie or contact your specific support officer within our office, whether that's Catherine or Michelle, whoever you've been in touch with. So we might go over to questions.
Yeah, I think there's been a few questions coming in. Oh, sorry, I turned my camera off too much. So there's one, I think that maybe Catherine, I don't know if you want to take a look at this, but somebody asked, they did a level 5 last year. What do they need to do when it comes to free fees?
Sure. A level 5 is counted as further education, not higher education. So there's no need to declare that with your free fees application, but you do need to make a free fees application to UCD. So if you just even Google free fees application, UCD, you'll come to the page on the registry website, and it will give you all the eligibility criteria and a link to make that application. And then once you log on, it asks you for some personal details. It asks you to upload your proof of nationality. It asks you to upload your proof of residency, which might be your statement of liability for 3 of the past 5 years, or social welfare statement, or there's a host of different documents you can upload, and it will provide you with a list. So you just upload those documents, and then it will ask you to sign a declaration that you don't hold any qualification at level 7 or above, and or any higher education attainment. And as you have a level 5, which is considered further education, you can happily sign that document away with clear conscience. And then you should get an email within a couple of weeks to say that you've been approved for HEA free fees, and they'll be applied automatically to your account. So it should be pretty straightforward.
Thank you. And there is another question here. If I was granted Irish citizenship, but the Irish passport hasn't been received yet, can I use the sheet form of my Irish citizenship nationalisation for my free fee application? Yeah. So this person doesn't, yeah, absolutely. So just upload that. I'm sure that will be absolutely no problem. If there's any sort of necessity, I don't think there is, but I've never heard of it. If there is any necessity to have that passport, then there is time once we know that you have your naturalization, so we can work with you on that. But my understanding will be absolutely fine to accept that document. Sure, not everybody has a passport. And yeah, I think there's been a few questions coming in, but we've had a crack team of panelists who've been answering the questions in the Q&A box. So I think we are in a good position to move on to Julie and Kim, who are going to talk to us about disability sports. So thank you very much to Fiona and Catherine.
Thanks very much, Roisin, and everyone else. So myself and Kim are going to talk to you tonight about the supports that we have specifically for students with disabilities in UCD. So this is the disability team that we have within Access and Lifelong Learning. So you met Barbara briefly earlier. She's our Deputy Director. We also have an Assistive Technology specialist who provides technology and training for students as well, and that's Sue. Fiona, you've just met, who's told you about our scholarships, and Fiona's actually our disability support specialist. And then we have two occupational therapists, Kim you will meet in a second, and Crisa was presenting earlier on. And then we also have a learning support tutor, Tom.
I might just quickly introduce myself there, Judy. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Lombard. I'm one of our other occupational therapists.
Thanks, Kim. So just to give a bit of an overview as to what we're going to tell you about tonight, just some information about the supports that we have available for students with disabilities, how the students access those supports, who knows that students receive disability support, so a little bit around confidentiality, and then a bit of a reminder about the academic skills supports that we strongly encourage students with disabilities to engage in, and there's some additional information on scholarships also. So as we've done all along, put your questions into the Q&A and my colleagues will answer them, or they'll ask Kim and I the questions at the end of the session. But if you don't get your question answered tonight, we will all be available on our email, and that is disability@ucd.ie. We'll be meeting students all day, every day for the foreseeable future. So the easiest way to contact us is by email. So if you have any questions that don't get answered tonight, please do pop us an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So the types of supports that we have for students with disabilities, maybe the most common support that we have is exam accommodations or exam supports. So some of our students will have used exam supports before, perhaps in the Leaving Cert or other exams that they've taken. But even if they haven't, all students with disabilities in UCD are entitled to exam accommodations. And that would be things like perhaps sitting your exam in a smaller centre on campus instead of attending the RDS, and getting some extra time. So the extra time allowance is 10 minutes per hour. We also have classroom accommodations for students with disabilities as well. And there's a huge range of those, but the most common ones would be things like provision of the lecture slides, and permission maybe to record the audio of lectures to help with note-taking. And there's lots of note-taking technologies that we recommend for students as well to use in the classroom. Some students then would use additional supports like Irish Sign Language interpretation, captioning, or perhaps a personal assistant to accompany them while they're on the campus. As I mentioned already, we have an assistive technology specialist, Sue, and we strongly encourage our students to engage with assistive technology in order that they can be as independent as possible. And we provide a range of academic skills supports through the workshops that you've heard about already, and Kim will tell you a little bit more about those later on. And we also have one-to-one learning support for students who need it as well. Students with disabilities have access to the team of disability support staff. They all have an opportunity to meet with one of us on a one-to-one basis for what's called a needs assessment, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a second. We also have drop-in appointments, so those are virtual appointments that students can book for quick queries. So rather than waiting for a full appointment, if there's something that they need to speak to us about, they can book a drop-in. They can also book a schedule an appointment, and they can email us anytime, the same email address that I gave to you all earlier, which is disability@ucd.ie. So we'd strongly encourage everyone to contact us via that email address. We're all on there, so it's definitely the best place to get a speedy response. So how the supports work for students with a disability, as I said, they're based on a needs assessment, which is really the first step that students need to take in order to get supports. A lot of our supports are focused on the first year of your studies, so to try and get you all the skills that you need to succeed in UCD, and then we hope to see you becoming more and more independent as you progress through your degree programme. However, we're still here if you hit any bumps along the way. We focus on independent learning, as I said, so we try to make sure that our students are as independent as possible, and a lot of that is around teaching students to use technology. And it's important to note that the student determines the level of contact. So it's not, no student has to use disability supports, or they don't have to engage with the supports that are available to them. So the student decides how much or how little they want to use, and they can change that as they go through their degree programme as well. So the needs assessment that I've been referring to, this is a one-to-one appointment where we meet with students to discuss their needs, maybe any supports that they might have used in the past that's worked for them. And also we make some recommendations as well based on our own knowledge of what's worked for other students. It's important to note that we can't put any supports in place for students without them attending a needs assessment. Some of our students who apply through the DARE entry pathway think that we know about them already and that we'll be able to just put the supports in place, but that's not the case. We want to make sure that the students only get the supports that they've agreed to and consented to. So it's very important that they meet with us so we can explain to them how everything works and make sure that they're supported in the way they want to be. In terms of documentation, students who applied through the DARE entry pathway, the CAO will send us the DARE application for that student. So there's no additional documentation to provide for students who applied through the DARE entry pathway. All other students who are seeking disability supports have to provide appropriate evidence of their disability. And we provide really detailed information on what is required both on our website, and you can also, again, just contact us at that email address, disability@ucd.ie, and we will explain everything to you and to let you know exactly what's required. So how do we determine the supports that a student receives? Well, the student and the disability support member agree on supports. So it's based on the course requirements. So it depends on what the nature of the course is. Some of our courses are based on campus, and many of them have clinical placements and other types of placements as well. We also, as I said, talk about the student's experience to date, what they've provided in terms of their evidence of disability, and there's also national guidelines that we adhere to. So we want to make sure that there's similar supports available in all Irish colleges and universities. So if you have your documentation and you're ready to go, how do you book your needs assessment? Well, what you have to do, as I've said before, is just email us, disability@ucd.ie. We will send you some information, and a very short online form. We'll send you a link to that. It's on SysWeb, and you can complete the form and upload your documentation to a secure website. As soon as we've received that, we'll be in touch with you with an appointment time and date. In terms of how our needs assessments will take place this year, we will be offering needs assessments over Zoom video call in the first instance. However, if a video call is not accessible for a student, or if they are on campus and unable to find a private place to have that discussion, that's no problem at all. They just need to contact us and we can offer them an alternative or meet them face to face. Who attends the needs assessment appointment? It's really important that this appointment is a one-to-one meeting with ourselves and the student. If a student wishes for another person to be present at their needs assessment, such as a parent perhaps, the student must request this in advance of the meeting. However, we'd really try and encourage your students to come to that meeting themselves. It's really important that they form a relationship with us and that they know they can come to us with whatever challenges that they meet along the way. And we do find when others attend the needs assessment process, students don't tend to form that relationship and don't tend to come back to us at a later stage. The students will have to meet with us going forward on their own. So I think if you can encourage your students as much as possible, we're all very friendly and approachable, and that meeting is a casual conversation. It's nothing to be worried about at all. So if you can encourage students to attend that on their own, that would be certainly preferable. So in terms of who knows that a student gets disability support, so it is a confidential service. We provide students with a very detailed privacy statement, so they know exactly what information we keep, what we share, and who we share it with. There's really strict confidentiality and data protection practices in place, and information is recorded on the student record system, but there's very limited access to that. So there's only a few people who can see that information, and we'll explain all of that to the student. We also communicate information to module coordinators, so that's the person in charge of each of the modules, via their class lists, and that's to make sure that they provide all of those accommodations that a student has, maybe for the classroom environment or for some tests that might take place in class. We also issue students with a certificate of disability support, and that's to help them to disclose to anybody else that they want to tell about their disability in the university, or if they would need to ask for supports. It's a method to help them to do that. As I said, exam accommodations are probably one of the biggest accommodations that students use. If you have a disability, or if your friend or family member has a disability and they think they will need exam accommodations, please encourage them to make contact with us just by popping an email to us by no later than week 6 so that we can schedule an appointment for them. Some of the, we have 2 main exam sessions in UCD. One is at the end of trimester 1, so just before Christmas. The other is at the end of trimester 2, around May time. And those are the main big exam sessions. So ordinarily they would have taken place in the RDS, and we think they might be returning to the RDS this year. Students who have exam accommodations would be accommodated on campus for those exams. And if they have a class test or a locally arranged exam, something that's taking place during the trimester, then they can contact their module coordinator, who provide the supports for those locally arranged tests and exams if they need them for those. And they can use their certificate of disability support in order to do that. So just a note on our relationship with family members and any third party. We're not permitted to discuss any student with a family member or any other third party. So as we said, it's a confidential service. This would include information about whether or not a student is attending, their exam results, if they've registered, what they've registered to, any grants that they've been awarded, or their disability supports. So we are very happy to answer any general questions that you might have, but please don't contact us to discuss your student, as we won't be able to discuss them with you. The best thing you can do, as I said, is really encourage them to reach out to us and to engage in that needs assessment process so they can get to know us, and we'll be there to support them along the way. At this point, I'm going to pass over to Kim, and she's going to talk a little bit about our academic skills workshops that you heard about earlier.
Thanks very much, Judy. So I know we briefly, I think it was Catherine who briefly kind of talked about our academic skills workshops earlier. So just to let everyone know that we do hold weekly academic skills workshops throughout both trimester 1 and trimester 2. At Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, and these will be held on our Brightspace module. So Brightspace for our friends and family here is the virtual learning environment that the students are going to be using to access all of their lectures and everything and their course materials online. But we also have a module ourselves where students can access those workshops as well. The good thing is that if a student isn't able to attend those 1 o'clock sessions on a Wednesday, if they have a class or something like that, we do also have all the recordings up online as well, and interactive workshops, so students can kind of work through them at their own time as well. So if you want to just pop on there, Judy, that'd be great. And so here's just a few examples of some of the academic skills workshops that we cover, things like studying at university, writing and research, proofreading, loads of different things, especially around coming up to the exam times. We would cover things like exam preparation, revision, referencing is always a really, really big one for students, because of course a lot of students may have never referenced before in their life, you know. So obviously we really, really encourage students to come to them. They don't need to book in at all. They can just literally turn up and get the information and ask any questions that they have there as well. So the NUI Scholarship, or the National University of Ireland Scholarship, is a scholarship for students with physical and or sensory disabilities who require financial support. And if you are a student who falls into both or either of these categories, you will discuss the application to this scholarship at your needs assessment. So if you haven't heard about your needs assessment yet, if you're a DARE eligible student, please get in contact with us. And if you're not a DARE eligible student, but you do have a physical or sensory disability, please do email us at disability@ucd.ie, and then we can book your needs assessment for you. And then just again on the Coughlin and Fiona scholarships, I know my colleague Fiona gave a very, very good overview about the Coughlin and Fiona scholarships, but we would really strongly encourage any student who is eligible for this to apply. And the applications are open in obviously autumn 2021, and all of the details are available on our website as well. So I just want to give a very quick overview of kind of the other supports that are available to students far beyond access and lifelong learning as well. So there's plenty of support around the university. So for example, the Math Support Centre and the Writing Support Centre provide kind of one-to-one free tuition for students, especially for the maths. It covers kind of modules from level 0 to stage 2. So especially if a student has a module that has some element of maths in it and they're concerned about it, please do encourage them to look into that as well. UCD do also offer a free counselling service as well for all students. And if a student does need that support, we would suggest that they get in contact with the UCD Student Health Centre to arrange that. Obviously, then leading on to that then is the medical centre. So same sort of thing, there's access to, you know, GPs, nurses, all that sort of stuff. There might be a small fee for a few of those consultations, but we absolutely would suggest students have a look at the Student Health Centre website to figure out what's available. The other thing then is that there's also student advisors. I know the students would have been advised about this earlier today, about how each programme has a dedicated student advisor or kind of support person associated with each kind of college. So, you know, student advisor in science, Catherine Tormey obviously is the student advisor for mature students, and so on and so forth. So these student advisors are absolutely fantastic for knowing the kind of ins and outs of the policies and procedures that relate to a specific programme. The peer mentors then are students who are in their later stages in a student's course, and a student would be kind of linked up with a peer mentor, especially next week going into their programme orientations. And it can be really, really useful for students to ask those students who've been through the process all those nitty-gritty questions that they may have about where are different buildings on campus and where would I go to have my lunch and all this sort of stuff. And that's what your peer mentor is there to do. Obviously, I know Fiona kind of briefly mentioned about the Student Welfare Fund as well, and that's the welfare fund that's there for unexpected kind of costs that may come up. And then the last one is the programme orientation, which will be taking place next week for students. And if they go onto their SISA, they should find out information on that. So I just want to see if there's any questions in the Q&A before passing over to Lisa. Sorry. Do we have anyone's here? So obviously, actually, Judy, I'll pass this one over to you. Is there a service that provides storage of emergency medication specifically for diabetes?
There isn't a storage facility specifically for that, but there are lockers that any student can apply for. So the easiest way to look for those, if you just Google UCD lockers, you can reserve a locker for yourself, and you will be able to keep anything you need in there as well.
Perfect. There's also another question here. A student asked, is it possible to take a test if you're not sure if you have dyslexia? So we do actually offer a free dyslexia screening service through our disability service. So please do get in contact with us on disability@ucd.ie to arrange that. However, this is not, if the screening does indicate that you may have dyslexia, you then need to go and get a full report before you can access disability supports in UCD. Perfect. Here it says, if you applied for DARE, are you automatically applied to the free fees? That might be a question for Catherine, which I think is correct. Don't know that, Judy.
Just repeat the question there. If you
applied to DARE, are you automatically applied for free fees?
Yeah, if you haven't had a gap between your leaving cert and coming into college, then you will be automatically assessed for free fees. So if you have a place of birth which is outside the EU, and you are a student who came in through DARE, then you would need to have a fee assessment done. So it depends on where your place of birth is, and obviously if you're a DARE student, there's no gap between entering in. So it's just dependent on the place of birth there.
Great, thanks very much, Catherine. Perfect, great. So I don't think there's any other questions there. If you have any more, please email us. But I'm going to pass over to my colleague Lisa Padden, who's going to give some information on our University for All initiative.
Perfect, thanks a million, Kim. So first of all, I'm going to cover a really exciting topic that I'm sure you want to hear loads about, which is COVID. So just to give you some information in terms of how we're handling this in UCD. So obviously UCD is a campus-based university. So lecturers and classes are all going to take place on campus. Our lecturers have been asked to record the large lectures, but those recordings can't necessarily be guaranteed. And there are lots of elements of courses that have to take place on campus. So labs, tutorials, other practical things in small groups. So you should contact your module coordinators if you want to know exactly how those modules are going to be delivered. UCD has mandated that masks be worn at all times indoors. So that's really important. If you're unable to wear a mask because of an underlying condition, what we'd suggest is that you talk to your doctor about whether it's appropriate for you to attend campus, but only students who are unable to wear a mask because of an underlying condition are exempt from doing so. So we're all wearing masks indoors to protect each other. So students who are in the very high risk category and therefore can't get a vaccine, they're unable to get a vaccine, should contact your programme office just to notify them. Otherwise, if you feel uncomfortable or if there's other circumstances, so health or caring responsibilities that mean you feel you can't attend campus, what you'd need to do is apply for extenuating circumstances. So what I'd recommend that you do there is contact your programme student advisor, who will be able to assist you with that application and talk you through that process. So just finally, before we wrap up, I want to reiterate Kim's message around our All Student Supports University for All Brightspace module. So University for All, just to say, and I think you heard about it already, is our inclusive university initiative. So all of these fantastic supports that you've heard about this evening, and also earlier on, if any of our students were at the earlier webinars, that's part of the work, a really important core part of the work of Access and Lifelong Learning, where we all work. But the other equally important part is that we work with the entire university community to make UCD fully inclusive. So making sure that your programme is inclusive, your teaching is inclusive, your assessment is inclusive, all your student supports and services, the physical campus, the technology infrastructure. So the entire university is working to be fully inclusive for you. So we're Ireland's first university for all, and we're really proud of the fact that our entire community are working together to be fully inclusive. And you also will have a role, so our students will have a role in our University for All. And when you come onto campus tomorrow or next week, you're going to see lots of these posters telling you that access and inclusion is everyone's business. So I'd invite you to have a look at our University for All website, so you can scan that QR code or just visit ucd.ie/University for All and see what you can do to play your part in our University for All. So reaching out to each other, being inclusive and embracing the diversity of our campus in UCD. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Barbara.
Who has demonstrated how much more reliable it will be for us to meet tomorrow, I think, Lisa, rather than in the virtual space. But can I just take this opportunity to commend my colleagues who have done yet another fantastic job at capturing the wealth of expertise across access and lifelong learning, and then the range of supports that are on offer. I do think we've anticipated a huge array of information that students and families and supporters need, but we don't expect you to remember all of it. We don't even expect you to remember a lot of it. Most of it is captured on our website, and then you can capture us tomorrow on campus, where we will be doing our orientation, our access and lifelong learning welcome here on campus that you've already booked. So on that note, may I thank you all who applied or who registered in record numbers, and say with the greatest sincerity and enthusiasm, a hearty welcome to UCD, All Welcome 2021. Hope you enjoy your evening. Bring your wellies, I suspect, tomorrow, maybe an umbrella, a packed lunch, and all the questions that you have that we'll be able to answer. So we'll see you all tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you. Bye now.